Good afternoon, class. Today I'm going to be exploring how director Roman Polanski uses cinematic techniques to create a slow build of tension and depict a realistic fear within the baby reveal scene of the 1968 film Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby has been regarded as one of the most influential films to come out of the horror genre, as it creates a primal fear of one's own child, paving the way for many films. Quoted, the 1968 film set the tone for films to follow, such as The Exorcist and The Omen. Today's average horror film relies on special effects and gory shocks, whereas the realism of Rosemary's Baby relies on a slow build of tension. The Take, 2016. The film uses its contemporary time period to enhance its themes, as at the time the fear of birth defects and religion was widespread. The 60s brought about a cultural shift as many sought to stray away from conventional religions, prompting a rise in Satanism. This was also a time of uncertainty, as the effects of birth control were not fully discovered. Quoted, this movie is such a byproduct of its era. Jack's Movie Reviews 2017. And that's the fear, right? The fear that your doctor is giving you something that is potentially harming you in the long run. Chelsea A. Rebecca from the Dead Meat Podcast 2019. Polanski uses this fear of birth complications and non-conventional religion to create a real fear so the audience would disconnect from the feeling of watching a film and become fully immersed in the realism. This movie dramatizes the most basic fears that every pregnant woman has, that something is wrong. The Take, 2016. This film has been directly adapted from the novel and follows Rosemary as her and her husband Guy move into a new apartment. Days after their arrival, they are greeted by the Castevets, Minnie and Roman, who instantly become a large part in their lives as they constantly intrude on Rosemary. After Rosemary is secretly drugged by Minnie, she is then raped by Satan in a cult ceremony. Upon waking up, she finds that her and her husband are pregnant with a child. Over the next few months, the audience watches as Rosemary goes from being a stereotypical 1960s housewife with dreams of becoming a mother to a deranged pregnant lady controlled by outside forces as depicted in both her pregnancy and the constant intrusion of the neighbors. The audience is shown this through Polanski's constant use of POVs and over-the-shoulder shots, making the audience feel submerged in the film. Rosemary's fear slowly grows worse throughout the film as she begins to suspect her husband Guy is part of the satanic cult. As her paranoia builds, Polanski uses more frequent long-moving shots and POVs to represent the deranged state. Finally, the film builds to its climax as Rosemary is drugged and then wakes up to find that her child has been born.
Rosemary, go back to bed. You know you're not supposed to be up and around.
Is the mother? Rosemary.
Shut up.
Rosemary.
Shut up, you're in Dubrovnik. I don't hear you. What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
He has his father's eyes.
What are you talking about? Guy's eyes are normal. What have you done to him, you maniac?
Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son of mortal woman. Hail, Satan!
Hail, Satan!
Satan is his father, and his name is Adrian. He shall overthrow the mighty and lay waste their temples. He shall redeem the despised and wreak vengeance in the name of the burned and the tortured. Hail, Adrian! Hail, Adrian! Hail, Satan! Hail, Satan!
He chose you out of all the world, out of all the women in the whole world. He chose you. He arranged things because he wanted you to be the mother of his only living son.
His power is stronger than stronger.
Satan!
His might shall last longer than longer. Yes, Satan!
No! It can't be! No!
Look at his hands and his feet.
Oh, God!
God is dead!
Hail Satan!
Satan lives! The year
In this scene, it is contextually revealed that Rosemary has harbored the spawn of Satan and her paranoia and fear was true. Throughout the sequence, Polanski uses minimal editing to create a flow. He uses shots such as an extended over-the-shoulder shot that develops into a mid to immerse the audience and maintain Rosemary as the subject of the scene. A panning POV, which is used with the mise-en-scène to further immerse the audience by psychologically making them feel as though they are part of the scene. Polanski then uses a close-up shot as Rosemary reaches for the child as its slow build to the reveal is used to create tension within the scene as the audience eagerly awaits for the horrors to unfold. Kushlov's philosophy is used here as it shows Rosemary's reaction, prompting the audience to connect the two images and associate them with the feeling of dread. The soundtrack amplifies this by its abrupt introduction with loud wails and seance sounds. Polanski shows a slow rise in tension in the first part of the scene as he slowly builds to the reveal with one long continuing over-the-shoulder shot that pans across the characters as they speak. The tension is brought up through the slow pacing of the unbroken shot. This shot puts the audience in the perspective of Rosemary with its use of rule of thirds and leading eye trace, positioning Rosemary towards the left-hand side of frame, giving the audience a clearer view of the scene. The use of lighting in the front of frame is also used to lead the audience towards the back of the shot, showing the full extent of the cult. The sound of a ticking clock is then used to add to the mise-en-scène and the atmosphere, as the constant ticking tempo is all that can be heard, creating a slow build in tension. In the sequence, a repetition of low-angled close-ups are used to make the cult members seem powerful. In particular, Polanski uses mise-en-scène in the actor's positioning of Roman Castevet to make the audience feel tense, as he is positioned dominantly in both the first shot, where he is closer to the camera, creating a sense of intimidation, and secondly, in the close-up shot, where he is shot at a low-angled POV towering over the camera, making the audience feel immersed in the realism. Psychologically, this leads the audience to empathize with Rosemary and feel her sense of dread as she comes to terms with the climactic explosion. This also enforces the lack of control Rosemary is shown to have, as she is unable to do anything and subjected to cower and fear as much as the audience. A recurring motif in the mise-en-scène in this sequence is the background artwork, shown in the POV. It is used to physically represent the leader of the cult, Adrian, the name also given to the baby, as well as the male hierarchy of power, as the painting is positioned dominantly above Rosemary and is shown in shots where she is overthrown by male dominance. Psychologically, the portrait portrays tension as it watches over Rosemary and the audience as they approach the crib. The use of wardrobe and colour throughout the scene is used to contrast ideas and create a sense of suspense, as Rosemary is shown to be dressed in light blues, representative of her innocence, and depicting parallels to the Virgin Mary. Rosemary is increasingly shown in the colour of the Virgin Mary, blue and white, representative of her loyalty and purity, the Tate, 2016. This draws parallels to the crib, as the darker colour scheme is used to represent an externalization of the evil which it holds within. The camera enhances this idea with its slow build of tension as it slowly moves towards the crib. Polanski quotes, "In analysis, I find everything is a detail. Whatever you do on the stage is working with detail. If you do not attach detail, you are just lazy." Through this use of wardrobe, Polanski creates a psychological association to enhance the slow build of tension as he embeds a deeper meaning to the mise-en-scène. The reveal of the baby, however, is never shown in the film and is instead alluded to in the line, "His eyes, what have you done to his eyes?" to co-extend what the audience has previously witnessed in the devil rape scene. This is supported when Polanski uses a crossfade to overlay the demon's eyes from an earlier scene, prompting the audience to connect the two images with Kuslov's philosophy. Finally, Walter Merck's rule of 6 philosophy is used within this sequence, as the scene is comprised of 6 sectors. The tension, which makes up more than half of the scene and conveys an emotion of fear and anxiety. The story, which is the climax of the baby reveal scene. The rhythm, which is used in both the flow of the scene and the music. The use of eye trace, which is used to draw the audience's attention towards the cult members and Rosemary's reaction. And finally, the last 2 sectors, which are comprised of the 3D and the 2D space, which is occupied by the mise-en-scène on screen. In summary, Roman Polanski's 1968 film Rosemary's Baby is shown to use climactic techniques to convey a sense of anxiety, terror, and fear of the unknown through its slow build of tension depicting a realistic fear with the baby reveal scene. Thank you for listening.